I'm Eiléan Ní Chuilleanáin, surviving editor of Cyphers, a magazine of poetry, prose and translation that was founded in 1975 by four editors, Leland Bardwell, Piers Hutchinson, MacDara Woods and myself. Since early on in the history of the Strokestown Festival, we've been launching our latest number here. Today, we've got to number 91, and unfortunately this is just a mini launch without the buzz of Strokestown House, but it's still great to be able to mark the occasion. In this issue there's fiction, criticism, photographs, and there are lots of poems from Ireland and elsewhere. We've always had an international pool of writers. We've tried to welcome poets and writers from all around the world. This time, we invited translators to find us poems from the countries whose citizens are living in Ireland, from Poland, Syria, Romania, Russia, China, Brazil. What you're going to hear is readings by a couple of Irish poets, and then two poems from Brazil translated by one of the original four founding editors, Piers Hutchinson. Before the readings, though I have a couple of other things to say, the bookshops will be open in a few weeks, and the good bookshops will have copies of Cyphers. We have a website, cyphers.ie, and you can read about us and subscribe and find out more about our history. I also need to thank especially the Arts Council, which has supported us from the beginning, and many thanks to the Strokestown Festival for their friendship and hospitality. I can't wait to be back in Strokestown House. I'd also like to thank Anya Nivrin, who keeps track of our administration, to thank Natasha Cuddington and Eiléan Ní Chuilleanáin for their editorial help. And here now are short poems read by Paddy Bush, Moya Cannon, and then two poems from Brazilian Portuguese, translated by Piers Hutchinson and read by Vincent Woods.
Language Loss for Olivia O'Leary. In Irish, the ringed plover is a fado clodig, and that shoreline whistling was what I heard when the bird, piping distractively and feigning a broken wing, did everything to draw me away from the small, scraped-out hollow in the sand where she had laid her 4 pebble-stone eggs. For days, with binoculars, I watched her brood, saw her weave diversions against hooded crows. She couldn't divert the storm, nor stay the tidal surge that levelled the beach and all its hollows. Now and again, I make out high-pitched snatches of a song in despairing search of its own words.
Primal. This luminous morning, the regular thump of brown waves almost drowns out the delicious talk and susurrus of surf, back-rushing seawards through shingle, sieving through pebbles of granite, limestone, sandstone, quartz, flint. Earth's layering, burning, rending history, reduced to a shining, salty jumble. And someone who was here earlier this morning or yesterday evening has set up an alignment of 7 sea-smoothed fragments of red brick, which greet the rising sun across the tide. And nothing will do me but to line up more and more sea-rounded cliff jetsam, bricks from a long-gone lime kiln to set up row after sun-struck row.
When Piers Hutchinson died in January of 2012, he left a legacy of notebooks to us in his home in Findrum in Rathgar in Dublin. Original unpublished poems, translations, part of a memoir of his childhood, of his time in Geneva and Spain and Catalonia, all kinds of riches. And some of the original poems were published in a lovely collection, Listening to Bach, in 2014, which Elaine and I edited with Peter Fallon. But there is this rich seam of unpublished translations. Piers was a great translator. He loved languages. He spoke many languages: Irish, French, Spanish, Catalan, and in his collected translations done into English from 2003, there are poems in many of those languages. And a lovely last line in Pierce's introduction where he says, a couple of final words: every poem in this book, he said, has been translated because I liked it. And that enthusiasm for words, for language, for translation, for poetry is palpable in these two new, previously unpublished translations in the new edition of Cyphers, which Elaine plucked from copies of from those notebooks in Findrum, and we're seeing them in print for the first time. And as with so much of Pierce, they're vibrant and lively and sing out of one language to another. And in this case, the language is Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, two translations from Brazilian poets. The first by Ronaldo de Carvalho, 1893 to 1935. And the poem is The Silver, Gold and Emerald Market. It smells of the sea, it smells of the sea. The heavy nets beat like wings, the moist nets throb in the gloaming. The smooth beach is a coruscation of scales. Blue rays are flapping on the wet golden sand. Mullet is flashing like steel in bronze and ebony hands. Muscles, fins, voices, roarings, all mingle in the sizzling of the foam boiling on the stones. It smells of the sea. The horn of a new moon capers on a wave crest. And between the soft seaweed and the hairy shellfish, where crabs drag along on dislocated feet, and the jelly-like eye of the flexible squid floats before the vast net of the night, weighted down with stars in the free melody of space and waters, swollen with air, prophetical, tympanical, a river fish explodes with the dint of pride. And the second poem, totally different, but an equally vivid translation by Manuel Bandeira, Recife, 1886 to 1968, The Virgin Mary. The registrar, the tax collector, the major domo of the Holy House, and the administrator of the cemetery of St. John the Baptist dug with axes, with sticks, with their nails, with their teeth. They dug a cave deeper than all my sighs of renunciation, and they flung me into it and laid on top of it the tablets of the law. But from inside the depths of the earth in the cave, I heard the small voice of the Virgin Mary saying that the sun was shining outside, saying insistently that the sun was shining outside. Here's to many more issues of Cyphers.